It's the King versus the King of the Dead, as we have a look at NECA Cult Classics Series 3, Bubba Ho-tep. Bubba Ho-tep comes with a display base that you can actually lock up and pair up with the NECA Cult Classics Series 4 Sebastian half, which we so happen to have a look at in the previous video. Luckily for this humbled reviewer, I didn't lose the display base for Bubba Ho-tep, as that is the one thing this figure would have needed in order to properly stand. So, including that, we have to factor that in when we are displaying at least, or measuring at the very least, how tall the figure stands. The answer to that is 7¼ inches in height. Let's go ahead and take Bubba Ho-tep off of his display base. We'll just put the figure right there. You can see just the way the nature of the way his feet are posed, the figure's gonna topple over. So we'll just lay him down there. Let's have a look at the display base first and foremost, and then we'll have a look at Bubba Ho-tep. A really nice display, like swamped area display base. Very muddy, very wet, very gross, very perfect for this undead mummy. Even got ourselves the little license plate there, 6393BB. And you got also a few brushes of taller grass, which I might just want to point out, just for the sake of it, it is a review after all, that is a softer plastic. It's a very soft, pliable plastic. A couple of peg holes on the top sides of the display base. Of course, that will accommodate the display base, or the display standing for Bubba Ho-tep. Ideally, if you had Sebastian's half's base, I think I actually connected here, and there was just a longer piece. If I so happen to find it, mark my words, I will maybe do a follow-up video. I'll just add the connection there. But luckily, Sebastian doesn't have any problems standing. Bubba Ho-tep has all the problems standing. To get the figure on the base, he only goes really one way. You're going to line the peg hole to this peg here. And then you've got a secondary peg hole right there, which we then will line up to the hole there. And just a lot of adjusting and moving the feet around and stuff like that, until eventually you get yourself a well-footed mummy. It looks great. It has a nice... This is exactly stuff that I'd like to see maybe NECA do in future figures. Not necessarily an over-the-top display base, but Bubba Ho-tep brings a good, interesting point to mind. Just giving us a small base like this, something you can display the figures on that don't take up a lot of footprint space. Doesn't really have a lot of costs involved for producing something that small. But imagining, if you will, a base like this coming with, say, a Jason, or Freddy Krueger coming with just like a floor, a graded floor from the furnace room. Something like this, just small, just very small and insignificant, but certainly would mean the world for a collector to have each of the figures displayed with kind of little scene-specific bases. Just FYI. Let's slide him over for a second. And we'll have a look at him next to the Sebastian half, which we just finished having a look at, also from the movie Bubba Ho-tep. What would have made this duo a perfect trio is if they had brought and released a JFK, which could have also gone in the middle, or you could have, of course, had both of them side by side fighting the evil Bubba Ho-tep. And again, this would mean a lot more and have a little bit more oomph to it. If I actually had the display base, I could show you as well, but no such luck. No such luck. Okay, so we'll move Bubba Ho-tep's Sebastian half out of the way. We'll go ahead and take the mummy off his display base and have a look at this fantastic looking figure. I love the figure back then. I love the figure now. It does have, as mentioned before, a little bit of dated age to it. In other words, more the sculpt. I guess the sculpt isn't terrible, to be all honest. The head sculpt is really good, as well as the hair. It looks very much like he does in the movie, although I will admit a little on the paler side. The paint, I think, is almost on par, and I don't mean this in a critical sense of saying, well, his stuff would have been the lesser grade, but it's the best comparison I can make. It does remind me very much, paint-wise, to what we were getting with McFarlane Toys, Movie Maniacs specifically. Especially when I'm looking like at the bone structure or the decayed skin structure of his body. It very much has the same sort of paint elements to it, that say even the bases would have come with the movie Maniacs, that spinal bone sort of display base that would have had posters inside. I get very much that same sort of paint to it. So you get very pale colors, and then on top of that you get very dark, stark colors. It does work well for Bubba Ho-tep, but I think if they ever release this figure again, which would be next to ever, I think they could have gone in and really just given him a new paint coat, and just a better paint job really would have made this guy shine. Again, it's not the sculpt that kills it for him, it's really just the paint. The jeans are okay. Like I said, he's got a pair of ripped away jeans and a very nice belt buckle happening there. Looks like it's a Texas belt buckle. He's got some cowboy boots happening there as well. Snake skin, I'm sure, or crocodile skin, who knows. Very nice. It does have the look of like a leather, and again, the rattlesnake or whatever skin they would have used for the bottom of the boot. Speaking of the bottom of the boots, there's the peg holes on the undersides. But like I said, I really do like the look of this guy. I thought he was really neat in the movie, the idea that he was a cowboy Egyptian mummy coming to suck the souls of the seniors. And again, there's a lot of S's from the retirement home. Even like the flame work that's been added to the top collar of his shirt. Like really so much of the shirt has been ripped away. Little rags and tags of fabric just kind of draping away, just kind of falling away. As you can see the exposed rib cage here of the mummy. It looks really phenomenal. And again, it's only really the paint that I feel makes the figure suffer, where you can immediately look at it and say, yeah, that's an older figure. Again, I don't think it's the sculpt that ruins it. I think it's probably just the paint that makes him look older. Does come with a little hat. The hat is not removable, in case you were wondering. It's of a softer, almost rubber-like plastic material. And he's got a couple of feathers also on the top, which are also a soft material as well. I really like going back and having a look at these figures again, because it really brought such joy to me. As much joy as buying an action figure would be to, I guess, I'm trying to think of how old I would have been back in the day. Probably like mid to late 20s, I think, when I was buying these figures. Probably could have even been early 30s. I'm going to just kind of abruptly stop right there and not talk too much about how much older I am than that. But these brought such joy to me when I was first picking these up. I think they were initially at Toys R Us. So you're thinking, like, if you go further back, imagine going down the toy aisle, and there was like one 4-foot section that was just nothing but cult classic figures and stuff like that. NECA pieces are still available in stores, but I really don't think to the same level as what we were getting back in the day, though. I mean, those shelves were really packed with a lot of these good figures, and these figures back in the day probably would have been about $15. Probably pay a little bit more for it now, although Bubba Ho-tep, much like Sebastian Haff, I don't think is a figure that's overly expensive now. If you compare him to the likes of a Jason Voorhees, say for the Part 7 Jason Voorhees, or even like the new Nightmare Freddy, a lot of those figures are still quite expensive. Figures like this, maybe not so much if you wanted to pick them up nowadays. Let's run through his posability together. His head rotates all the way around. Gets a little on the stuck side at times, but it's still okay. Doesn't move up and down too much. Doesn't get much of a rocking back and forth. His arms move all the way around. Not only is his arms very spindly, you can imagine as well, like, ooh, the joint is really loose. Actually, you know what? The joint broke off. And to my credit, though, or in my defense, I don't think the joint broke off me turning it. The joint might have actually already been broken off before. It's a shame, but I've said this before, a lot of times I don't glue like cult classic figures. I still have many of my cult classic figures in my collection, and any ones that have had broken arms, I never glue, because really, you can still move the arms. It's only really by popping out the arms that you realize that the joint is broken, but I can still move the arms completely up. This one is not too bad so far. This one still has held up over the course of time. This one not so much, sadly. Hands rotate back and forth. I will say, though, if you do have this figure at any given point, you pick him up along the way and you find that his joint is broken, don't, no, don't glue it. Because if you glue it, you're never going to be able to move that arm again. Again, you've got much more of a range of motion to this guy as you probably think you could, for the fact that if you looked at it, you'd never know, other for the fact that I've done, obviously I'm showing you in this review, but you would never know that the figure has a broken arm. As of course now I'm saying that, I'm trying to get the arm back, and there we go. You would never know that the arm is broken based on what I can still do with the figure, so don't glue. Whatever you do, don't glue. I wish that I could make that into a rhyme, but I'm not that quick on my feet. Speaking of feet, how's that for a segue? His feet also rotate in his boots. He doesn't have any waist swivel. Due to, of course, as you could probably imagine, there's a whole lot of sculpt happening right there. They would not want to disrupt any of that by having a big abrupt cut running through his waist. Now, in final looks, this final look would have looked so much better if I actually could have been able to find the display base that came with Sebastian Haff, but still, we push forward. It's a nice showpiece having both characters pitted against one another. Again, the icing on the cake would have been if NECA had released a cult classic version of JFK, where at the very least you could have had the three paired all together and grouped together on the shelf. This is not something that NECA has done a whole lot of, incorporating a figure and then basically nodding to the fact that the next wave is going to have a figure that's going to pair up with it. That's really smart. It's not something that maybe they would do in future figures, but it's kind of neat to be able to pick up one figure and basically know that the figure from the next series is going to be able to match up next to it. Kind of gives you incentive for wanting to pick up the figures. I like Sebastian Haff. I really love Bubba Ho-tep. I think his sculpt of the two stands up the best nowadays. I think it's really only the paint that needs to be updated on this guy to make this figure a home run hit. I'm a little broken by the fact that the arm is broken, but at the very least, like I said, I would never glue it. Gluing the arm, I think, is such a bad idea because ultimately it just means that you can't move the arm. And in case somebody was wondering, yes, there is a cut also. No, not literally a cut, but there's a cut in the thigh of Bubba Ho-tep, so you can technically rotate the leg that's facing forward. A little bit extra posability in case somebody had the figure and was about to say the same thing as well, so yeah. Today we were having a look, though, at the NECA Cult Classics Series 3. This was the Bubba Ho-tep from the movie of the same name. So when I put that probably in the description, I won't put NECA Cult Classics Bubba Ho-tep, Bubba Ho-tep. I know what I'm doing, but anyone looking at it will just be like, why would you put the name twice? It's because it's the character from the... Never mind. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to have some more throwbacks coming your way. I kind of like going back to some of my older figures in my collection and kind of giving them a fresh coat of paint, so to speak, with a brand new camera, brand new backdrop. And like I said, we're going to do some more throwbacks in future videos. Don't worry, there's still going to be new videos of new things in store shelves currently that are going to be coming on this channel as well. Make sure you hit that little subscribe button. You know where it is. Yeah, you're looking at it right now. You're still looking at it. Yeah, it's right there. Yeah, it's right there. Hit that little subscribe button that's just below this video. It'll guarantee you that when new videos are coming onto this channel, it's not 100% guarantee, but at the very least, you will know when new stuff is hitting this channel. Maybe not all the videos, which unfortunately is one of the problems that YouTube is currently facing, as video content creators say ad nausea in their videos. Ad nausea, I'm going to say as well, you could hit the bell notification. That's grand. That's swell. But make sure also you head over to my main page. That's where all the goodness is happening. Go to the section that says videos and just scroll down. That's all you have to do. You don't have to worry about ringing the bell, ring-a-ling-a-ling. I know everybody says, hit that bell notification. I'm saying, hit the bell notification is good, but make sure you head over to the main page as well. Head over to the section that says videos, scroll down, see if there's anything that you may have missed along the way. That is your 100% guaranteed stamp seal of approval that you'll never miss out on future videos or recently released videos. Future videos will basically involve you traveling in time. And I want to see what that skateboard of yours looks like. I hope it's a hoverboard. More videos, guys, will be coming your way. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.